So, good morning, everyone, or good afternoon, or good evening, according to your time zone. We truly do have a global audience that has registered. Multiple countries and time zones are represented in today's webinar. We are absolutely delighted that you have joined today. I'm John Barker from the Bonar Institute for Purposeful Leadership. We have founder and CEO James Bonar and Jude Carriere, who is our public relations marketing expert. And today I'm delighted to introduce our speaker, Bira de Oliveira. And I will have to ask Bira to provide his biography because it's so extensive. But I would like to begin with a little bit of background about Bira and how I know him and why I invited him to present today. Bira, like me and others at the Bonar Institute, are passionate about raising the standards of board of director governance and other best practices in executive leadership. And Bira and I met in a class at Wharton, University of Pennsylvania. We both were in a corporate governance class that we attended remotely. I think that was still during the COVID period. So all of us were taking, I think I took 20 online classes during the COVID period, but it was an interesting time. And I immediately knew that Bira was a corporate governance expert already and could have taught the class. So Bira and I continued in contact after the class, and I discovered an organization also passionate about board governance, and that is the Virtual Advisory Board. And Bira invited me to join, and I'm delighted that I have. And Bira, I'm going to make you the host so that you can share your screen. I also want to note that we will be discussing Bira's transformation to becoming a purposeful leader, and that is transforming from a leader contextualized by traditional corporate attributes of mission, vision, and strategy and values to being contextualized by purpose. So mission, vision, strategy, and values remain important, but there's a new contextualizing factor called purpose. It is a very deep and nuanced topic. Some people look at the word purpose and it sounds at first very simple. I assure you it is not. It is a very deep topic. And today we will be exploring the depths of that topic and the nuances, and especially in the discussion. Bira has also said that he would love for us to be interactive. So if you have questions, feel free to raise your hand, unmute, pose a question, or send the question in the chat feature. So Bira, I will now make you the host, and you will be able to share your screen, and I will go on mute, but I certainly will be making comments during the presentation, and I'll monitor the chat feature. So Bira, please also introduce your very impressive multinational CEO and board member background in multiple cultures.
Sure. Thank you, John, for your brief introduction. And my background is mine engineering, and I've been working for this industry for 45 years now. So I work in several countries and with different cultures, and I had to apply during my transition, during my professional career, let's say, several leadership traits until I came across the Purposeful leadership. We are going, once I start sharing my screen, we are going, I'm going to share a little bit of how this transition came about. As I said, there is no intention here to deliver a lecture on Purposeful leadership, but instead, as Joy pointed out, just to share to share some key factors and tenets that support my transition from the traditional leadership models and traits to purposeful leadership. And please, I'm not a purposeful leadership evangelist. I think that I discussed that with James some time ago. So I don't have any intention today to convince anyone in this session to do the same. So as John said, again, I expect this section to be very interactive. So please feel welcome to interrupt me anytime you feel necessary so we can evolve to a productive conversation. We are here for you. I invite some colleagues from VAB, as John mentioned, but they are all with their agenda very, very busy. As I said, my background is mining engineering, and I am a lifelong learning. And all throughout my career, I've been adding knowledge to my portfolio. And I went through a master and MBA and also through a Ph.D., which I'm going to tell you something more about once we advance with the slides. And as John said, I've been operating in C-level for the last 15 years or so, and working with boards. And I'm very passionate with corporate governance, ethics and compliance, and for sure leadership, and other themes that are connected with board governance. So as I evolved throughout my career, I discovered that I had to add some more knowledge and to the knowledge that I had. Sorry, I'm getting a little bit nervous here. So, and I start adding these new traits to my portfolio. So I put out an agenda here. So this is not rigid, but I think that is good for us to just follow a discussion. I put first contests because as I learned during my PhD and throughout my career, context is very important for anyone to decide what a type of leadership style or model or trait he's going to use or he's going to apply for a certain contest. And then we go through some definitions and concepts. The benefits for being a purposeful leader, and then moving from purpose to impact, from concept to action. I think that this is very important. And purpose to impact planning. How do you plan that? And some inspirational quotes that I would like to leave for you, to think about. And at the end of this presentation, I also put some bibliographic reference. I think that is interesting for you to have this reference just to start for some of you that are still not initiating purposeful leadership. I think that is our good starts for you. So let's start with contest. These are the themes that I've been involved for the last 45 years. Always involved with leadership, corporate social responsibility, and all this mission, vision, value, strategy, and disrupt innovation, and blah, 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 and all of that. But I put purpose, once I got to know that purpose is at the core of that, I put purpose in the center. And for the last 12 or 15 years, I've been managing, using, or leading, better saying, with purpose at the core of my leadership. So the context for this meeting is within sustainability. I've been working with sustainability for many, many years, and I consider sustainability to be corporate social responsibility plus ESG more recently. There is a quote down in the slide saying that contest has a vital role to play in the successful enactment of purposeful leadership. And contest is vital for any type of leadership, not just only for purposeful leadership. I put some key leadership factors that you should take in consideration, and the purpose comes first, always. And what is purpose? Purpose is what we do, and why that is important for the business, why the business exists. And second comes plan. What is plan? What do you do, and what do you aspire to do as an organization? The source for this information comes from a white paper from Rudy Plattings. Rudy is one of our colleagues at the Virtual Advisor Board. I invited him, but he wasn't in one of our webinars this morning. He's quite busy, he could attend. But anyways, any questions here before we jump into definitions and concepts?
Feel free to unmute or send any questions over the chat feature. I will have questions, of course, but I don't right now.
Okay, so let's talk about the definition. There are many forms of definition, so we can spend the entire day talking about what's purpose. So I put two perspectives. One is philosophical perspective. I'm not going to read. This is coming from Aristotle. And there is another one that I didn't mention here, but I include in the reference for you, that is Taoism perspective. That is very interesting. I recommend heavily that you read this paper from Zoom. It's really interesting. And there is the business perspective for purpose. Again, I'm not going to read, but I'll give you time, so if you want to read. Purpose is very important for, for the reason why we exist in this world, and what's the reason for being, And one of the things that I like about purpose is something that you have very close to your heart, and you use to for the great good, and sharing knowledge. So that's what I'm doing here. I'm trying to share some of my experience and some of my knowledge. And talking about purpose, my purpose for today's section is, as I said, share experience and knowledge with the group, And okay,
Bira,
so
I would like to add one thing. And we discussed this in our Wharton class on corporate governance, but that I think is very important to remember. The original business incorporation statutes that emerged in the colonial period in the United States, of course, the original concept of a board of directors really was formalized in 1619 with the Dutch East India Company, and later adopted by the British East India Company, which colonized Canada and the United States. And the very first although there is debate, they debate each other about who started it first. But the first incorporation statutes actually said your corporation must fulfill a public good. It must be devoted to the public good. And there is actually debate today about what that public good is and the degree of weight that notion of public good is given. And there are people who say it's ridiculous, do not consider it. And there are people who argue the opposite. I actually, of course, would argue the opposite. I think societal conditions mandate it. But I did want to just raise that debate. Anyone who is interested, I can give you links to that material. You can always email me. I'll put my email address in the chat feature, and I can send you some references. And I apologize for interrupting, but I wanted to mention.
No, very welcome, John. Thank you. Thank you very much. John is a living library. So if you have a doubt, just get in touch with John that he knows everything about anything. So thank you. Thank you, John. So coming back to the article that I mentioned that about the philosophical perspective that was written by Lian Guangzhou, and she writes about relationship between CSR, sustainability, and purpose. So that's why I put CSR or sustainability as the contest for this meeting, or the contest for Purposeful leadership. And she posits that CSR and sustainability are the most important ingredient of purpose. So it's a very powerful statement. Now let's move to definition. What is purposeful leadership? There are many definitions out there. So I just select two, and one is given from Bonar Institute for Purposeful Leadership. So I'll just ask James, either James or John, to talk about how they define purposeful leadership. Is written down there, but I would like to hear from them how they came out with this definition. And there is another definition from the Charter Institute of Personal and Development. As I said, there are many definitions out there.
Thank you, Vera. So when we're speaking at the Bonar Institute about purposeful leadership, you do have our definitions on the website. I would just say, depending on the people who read it, it is either a moral choice or an ethical choice. It's one and the same, but the words are different and they mean different things for different people. And the other key word is really that principal leaders make to achieve something greater than themselves in the company they lead. This is predicated on the fact that if you wish your company to be purposeful, the leaders have to embrace it. And they have to then be principled in and of themselves, because if they are not, then they cannot achieve it. Vera, if I can just take 2 minutes and expand upon that for a moment. One of the comments I get back from some business leaders is, James, this is wonderful. We agree with it morally, we agree with it philosophically. But in the day-to-day, the practical world of business, it seems very, if you'll excuse the expression, kumbaya. It seems very in the clouds. It doesn't seem to have an impact financially. That is not true. And we have justified greatly that the economic impact of being a purposefully led organization over time is absolutely huge and far exceeds that of organizations that are not. Just by way of example, one statistic is mind-boggling, is that over a span of 11 years, a purposefully led organization will increase their net income by 760%, whereas those that are not will increase it by 1. Now, is that justification? Because what I've just done is I've emphasized the importance of the outcome, and which is absolutely key. Whereas what I've just said is that purposeful leadership is a moral choice, an ethical choice that principal leaders take. And that is something I've been struggling with. And I would welcome Bira's thoughts if he wishes to explore it, but if not, we can do it at the end or at another time. Can one emphasize the outcomes even if the intent is shaky? What I mean is, can a leader who wants the outcome of a purposely led organization, but still thinks it's a little bit kumbaya, can they then choose to integrate or to adopt the principles of a purposeful leader just to get the outcomes? I hope I'm clear in what I'm saying. I know what I'm trying to say, and if not, I don't want to take up too much time, but that is something I am struggling with. And I just wanted to raise it. Thank you, Bira.
Thank you, James. But just to make it simple, leadership purpose to me is rooted in our values, in
Yes.
our authentic self, just to put it in a simple way, and do not complicate it too much. I'm not saying that you are complicated, but in summary, to me, for a layman, this is what it means to me. And if I may give an example of a proposal leader for you, just a suggestion, there are many out there, is Paul Bowman. I think that you heard about him. He's the former CEO of Unilever and author of Net Positive. Paul has been talking about Net Positive, and many people are still talking about net zero. So he's many steps further ahead. So being purposeful and working in generating value for the shareholders, stakeholders, and for society at large is at the core of it should be at the core of your value, and that what makes the difference between proposal for leadership and the other styles. It just come out of you. It just doesn't focus on yourself. So moving forward, I've put there, I thought that would be worthwhile discussing this, the levels of proposal leadership. So I select one framework that is from Thomas Horan. And there are many frameworks in the literature that can help to build a purpose-driven organization. I can cite one, Quinn and Tucker, develop a framework based on 80 steps, and we could go through it later on slide 17. But I choose this one because it's very simple. And the arc just says that first you need to focus on self-management. That is at individual level. And there are many items there, and I can highlight character. To me, I think is one of the most important, which is related to your values, ethical posture, and philosophy of life. And then you go to management. you work at a group level, and you need to share this purpose or have a clear team purpose. I think this is the core strategy for a high performance team. And then you work at organizational strategy, enterprise level. We talk about mission, vision, values, and strategy. But once you establish your purpose and you embedded this purpose across all your level of your organization, you start seeing the results easily. And at the toppest level, you have the societal responsibility. That's what purposeful leadership works very much on, the great good for society. One of the reasons that I joined Walden University for my Ph.D. is that Walden says that they work for transforming society, make society as better as possible. And that's what appealed to me to join Walden. My first major was leadership and organizational change. And I've learned a lot how to work to move the society to a higher level and make every individual a better citizen and promote this better society. So another concept is why purpose would matter to leadership. Because purpose, it drives the corporation forward. So that's the thing that we need to consider and assist with building this competitive advantage. So companies that don't have purpose, they don't perform well. There is a research from Korn and Ferry, it's from 2019, that subdivides corporations that don't have a purpose statement and they underperform their peers. There are companies, they have a purpose statement, but they do not walk their talk, so they perform average. And companies that are purpose-driven or purposeful, they outperform the other companies. So there are really values in being a purpose-driven organization. But in order to achieve that, you need to have purposeful leadership at all levels of your organization and extrapolating this or taking this outward to the society. Question here?
Hello, I'm Stephen from the UK. I've been working in sort of corporate responsibility, I suppose, for a number of years. I'm a chartered accountant, corporates, and now more into charities. I'm really interested, this is fascinating, by the way, I'm really interested in the idea of productivity being higher and the performance, as the word you used. So performance is better, but isn't the circular notion here in that, what do we mean by performance? If performance is just going back to the same metric, which is financial performance, and the purpose is about something broader than financial performance, then don't we need to be considering performance as a wider metric than just its? Because to me, if it's only about justifying purposeful actions on the basis of the old, if you like, output metric, then we're just going to be justifying things on the basis of if you like, an older way of doing economics. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. It goes beyond, when you talk about the triple bottom line, you're talking about people, profit people, and the planet. So that's what connects purposeful leadership or highlights purposeful leadership. It's not only about operational performance. You have social performance as well. You know, it's not only bringing or add value to the shareholders, but add value to all the stakeholders, you know, to the broader society. So that's you know the key thing, you know, of being a purposeful leadership or a purpose-driven organization.
And I totally agree with that, and that's what I would like to see happen. I just wondered if you agree with me that there are headwinds against that, in that the sort of primacy of the financial stakeholder remains. In order to convince people, you kind of have to go back to that primacy. And does there need to be some kind of, I don't know, almost like top-down policy-based help to kind of have a broader sense of what success looks like? Because otherwise, it's, as I say, there's quite a lot of headwind for people who are trying to do this, and maybe are demonstrating social value, but when the going gets tough, then is it difficult for these board members to sort of continue this strategy? I'm thinking of Marks and Spencer in the UK, for example, who had this Plan A concept under Justin Rose, and it was all about environmental. There's no Plan B, and that kind of died when the company started to get in a little bit of trouble, and the cost cutting came back, and they dropped the environmental measures a little bit, and now they're kind of back where they were again, in my view. So I just wonder if it's, I love the idea of expanding and people growing this from internally. I just wonder what your thoughts are on needing some support from almost policymakers or wider society around, you know, making those wider stakeholder objectives more valued.
Yeah, you are absolutely right. And you know why is that? Because most of the leaders, you know, at my age or even younger, they come from a school that doesn't teach them. Is the old style, you know, about the profit and performance and all of that. So that's why it's difficult. So that's why we need to change that. So that's why we need more purposeful leadership involved in management team, involved in the board or committees or these sort of things to change this way of thinking. You know, you see out there many people going against the ESG or climate change, denying it, you know, because, you know, we come from this old tenets of the common business schools, you know. So that's the situation. We need a revolution. We need a transformation. Even though I'm not evangelist, but we need somehow, and I think that's the greatest, one of the greatest benefits of this webinar, you know, to start spreading this word or this philosophy, you know, say, look, there are different things of seeing or managing your organization. And now we can see, as I mentioned a few minutes ago, that there are stats, you know, that proves, you know, that you can perform better, you know, moving away the traditional management tenets that everyone learned at the school at that time. So, and no one, you know, it's not easy for you to change that because you learn economics in a certain way. So how you are going to change that? And you are appraised. Your performance appraisal is based on some metrics. So that's what needs to be changed, you know? And now some boards, they start being appraised based on social performance. So that's a transformation, and that's a good thing that is happening, you know, within the environmental business or the corporate environment. I don't know if answer or, you know.
Yeah, no, I really appreciate that. I think that's actually really inspiring in terms of being able to say it's a grassroots thing, and the more growth comes from the bottom, and demonstration and the flourishing of that, with more people trying to do it, then the more the ideas could change, because it is a juggernaut of status quo. So I think that's a really good way of looking at it, an inspiring way of looking at it.
Yeah. And I've been talking with John and James, and there is a perspective that we can continue with this webinar on purposeful leadership. Actually, that's why the Bonar Institute is there, to tap on this and to spread this. And let's see how it goes. But it's a very fascinating theme, and it's what we need, So that's why during my journey, I migrate from the traditional leadership models, transactional, transformational, and all these sort of things, to purposeful leadership, because I have a purpose now, and I'm passionate about this purpose. So that's why I'm here, trying to not to convince you, but just to give some words, and give you some ideas for, to start thinking about that there are other ways to run your business with greater results.
Bira, we have a very interesting question in the chat feature that everyone received. So all of us can view it. It's a very good question from Pia, and asking Bira if you can share a personal experience of how to be a purposeful leader in the mining industry. You have an extensive background in the mining industry.
Yes, thank you for your question, Pia. I do have many examples. I've always worked, among other things, with sustainable development, in design sustainable development plans for communities and all of that. And it's very difficult to engage the senior team in this sort of activity, even though you have in your organization a dedicated department for there. But once you manage to convince all the layers of your organization that they need to operate in such a way to do not harm the environment and society, you see that the results are different. In many cases, in many situations during my professional career, I experienced good results when you apply these concepts of purposeful leadership.
Well, I would like to just say, I know of many negative examples, and one of our colleagues at the Bonar Institute has written a book called The Yin and Yang of Reputational Management, and it actually gets into purposeful leadership. And the positive example that is frequently cited, although not in the mining industry, of benefiting from purpose is Patagonia. And the Patagonia business has environmental protection and respect as part of its core purpose. It's part of the brand. And examples of negative examples are Tesla. So there are individuals who say, well, I bought a Tesla. I don't like what Elon Musk represents. By the way, I'm not expressing an opinion. I'm just giving the facts. There are people who say, I'm going to sell my Tesla because when I drive a Tesla, it associates me with Elon Musk, and I no longer want to be associated through my car with Elon Musk. Those are examples. Google removed do no evil from its statement of values. So Pia, Bira Pia has given another question in the chat feature. Do you have one specific episode in your career, one specific example in your career that you are particularly proud of in the mining industry?
Yes, I have a few of them. Pia, sorry. One of them, I earned, not I, but the organizations that I was working, or the team that were working on these projects, we earned some rewards, some recognition from the society and some organizations. In mining, if you don't have the social license to operating, is very difficult. If you don't get the buy-in of your community, the community that you operating, or the community that's in the area of influence your project, you are not going to prosper. You are not going to evolve as business. So one great example is that we developed a plan, and we start teaching the community how to grow or to better manage their culture, and they did that with great results. And that was fantastic. That was phenomenal, and training for the community, not in the trades to work for the mining organization, but to work with other activities, because mining is a finite operation, or project. So you need always to think what you are going to leave behind once you leave, once you cease your operations. What is going to be your legacy? And everyone that works in your organization needs to understand, or to have a clear vision about that. And everybody needs to work in this sense.
One comment I would like to make, and last comment on this point, is that the legal system plays a key role in imposing liability for externalities in that's an economic term, particularly environmental damage. And so I, of course, there are many examples where corporations have been able to remove liability or shift liability through insurance. So there's a very complex dynamic going on with insurance, risk management, and the legal system that, of course, we cannot get into due to time. But the entire role of the legal system in corporate purpose arises particularly in Milton Friedman's philosophy that the philosophy he is associated with is the pursuit of profit is the only purpose of the corporation. And you can do that because theoretically the legal system will manage all of the externalities through the correct imposition of liability. That model has certainly been questioned, I think, with justification, does not seem to be working well. So that needs to be rethought. But I do think that model is dominant. Another thing, two other factors, public companies that trade on public stock exchanges in the United States are starting to list climate change as a risk in their management statements, in their quarterly and annual reports with the Securities and Exchange Commission. And in addition, the ability to insure against the economic risk of externalities is also shifting. So there, for example, in the real estate industry, Some insurance companies, I have friends who invest in real estate, and they've been told if you invest below this geographic line in the United States, we will not insure you for your risks due to the risk of flooding on the coast. They foresee flooding from the oceans due to climate change warming the ocean. So we're starting to see the entire risk shifting industry reflect some of this risk, which will ultimately affect profit and enter into the fiduciary duty calculations of board members. And it's a very complex topic that James Bonar and I will be diving deeper into in July or August of this year.
All right. So I put some sampling of proposal statements. And as you can see, to establish a purpose statement is very simple. It's not anything complicated. So I have at the left-hand side the bad purpose statement, and the right-hand side, the good proposal statements, just examples. Purposeful leadership is very simple. You just need to understand it, and and you get the benefits. Anyways, you can delve into it based on the reference that I left at the end. I put some concepts here. This one I like very much from Tony Gambill. Tony is a gentleman that writes about leadership, not only leadership, purposeful leadership, but all sorts of leadership. And I like this concept very much. It's very simple. It's very straightforward. So the purpose is like your compass, your North Star. I invite Tony to be in this webinar, but he didn't have time as well. And this one from Craig and Snook is also good, and I like it very much because it states that the most important role for executive is to be the steward of the organizational purpose. But the thing is, again, we need to get back to basics. Is to establish a clear purpose, and you're going to see in the next slide how we can get there. So I don't want to teach anybody. I'm not a master in proposal leadership, but we'll get there. This next slide is the benefits of being a purposeful leadership, just to make it evident for you and clear for you how you can improve performance for your organization. If you can gain motivation and well-being, and if you are a consistent leader, if you have clarity, during the complex times. So this is very important for the purposeful leadership to not deviate from your purpose, and creating healthy boundaries. So this is, again, from Tony Gambill that I like very much, and I follow him in LinkedIn. And so how can we move from purpose to impact? From concept, it's very nice to have all this concept, but you need to put this in action, in motion. And again, I select one framework from Thomas Horan, which is I already mentioned that is the arc of purpose of leadership. And the most important thing in this framework is alignment. You need to have all your entire organization aligned with the company purpose. Not only the company purpose, everyone needs to have a purpose. Remember that in the ARC, we have your personal purpose, your team purpose, your organization purpose, and societal purpose. You need to have everyone organized. So that's the difficult thing. And you really need to be a good leader and understand not only purposeful leadership, but you need to understand how to lead people in order to implement that, and harvest the good results. So that's why I think that these slides are important, because it's in a certain way easy to read and said, oh, okay, this is great, awesome. But how I implement that, if you're not a good leader, a leader that people believes, you are not going to achieve any of this, unfortunately, unfortunately. So how do you plan this? How we move from purpose to impact? So I think that Steve, this is going to be good for you. You have your traditional development plan. So that's what we learn in business school. How do you do your planning? How you do your KPIs and OKRs and all these sort of things. So we need to move away from that. We need to use another way of planning. So I just put side by side the differences between one thing and the other thing. I think that Pia mentioned that is long-term planning or looking forward thinking. There is one traditional development planning that focuses on the present, working forward. Instead of the purpose to impact planning, it focuses on the future and works backward, So I think that we need more webinars to go point by point to discuss all of that. So I'm just giving a broader view of this, and I believe that is going to be helpful to you, But anyways, you have the source there, and you can research that, and you can get more information about that. We have that some inspirational quotes, and the more you read about that, you're going to getting into the heart or into the core of the purposeful leadership. There is one that I put at the center. Is coming from James the Gaspard Bonar. We have him here today. He can tell us how he came about this this quote, John. I don't know if you want, James, if you want to say something, or should I move forward? Because I have some key takeaways that I would like to leave to the audience before we finish this.
Please keep on going, Bira. They can read it. Yes.
So I would like to thank you, everyone, sorry. And if you have more questions, you can find me, or you can send your questions to the Bonar Institute. And as I promised, I put some reference there. If you want a copy of this presentation, John can share a PDF, and it's just a few. You have many references, But the key takeaways that I would like to leave is, first, don't wait until things go bad to start finding a purpose, Start right away, find the purpose. That's the first thing that we need to do, is start doing it today, Because once things go bad with you, with your team, with your organization, or with the surrounding communities, it's too late. So you better start, right away. Another thing that I would like to leave is a top-down mandate does not work. So you need to get everyone engaged in the purpose. Many companies, as I said, they have their, well, not many, but some have their purpose, hanging in the wall. But people just pass by and read and do not understand what you are trying to say. So you need to communicate it clearly. So you need to get them engaged. So, do not create a statement from top down. So that's our purpose. You need to negotiate that. You need to build this from, bottom up. And the third one, I promise that I will stop here, is purpose it is not just a loft ideal. It has practical implications for a company's financial health and competitiveness. We don't have time, but there is a Gartenberg study, that they researched 500,000 people across 430 or so firms, and the results suggest positive impact in both operating financial performance, basically return on assets, and forward-looking measures of performance, Tobin skill and stock returns. When the purpose is communicate with clarity, just confirm what I said. So you need to be clear about your purpose. So make it simple that things will start working well in the direction that you want.
Well, Bira, first of all, a huge thank you. And again, a thank you to everyone who participated. And Steve, I definitely would like to invite you to host a webinar with us. I think you have a lot to say. I was able to find your LinkedIn profile, and I know that you have a lot of relevant insights. And there are other people in the webinar. James, before we end, I'd like to ask, Bira had asked you to elaborate on your definition of purpose. If you could do that quickly, that would be useful.
Well, I think that the definition that Bira gave encapsulates it well. But what I'd like to say about one of the things that Bira really touched on that struck home with me is when he said that a purposeful leader presents a compelling and achievable vision of the future and then works backwards. And that is, I think, hugely important. And I think that what you also mentioned, Bira, and what you showed were the various steps. And you started off with motivation. So a purposeful leader has to have that vision, but has to be able to communicate it with passion to the stakeholders and to show them and make them believe that it is achievable and important. And your presentation, I think, did that, at least for me. And I'm very, very grateful for your presentation and want to thank you for it.